All right, guys, you are connected at the hip now, and you have been for these last 25 years. Do you remember the first time you ever got together and were paired up?
I think when we met in the locker room, and our lockers are right next to one another because we were the freshmen coming in. There was only so many spaces, and we kind of chit-chat a little bit over there. And I think that was probably the first. We're always tired because every time we came in the locker, we're like, like we made it again.
And you could share, I guess, in what it was like to be freshmen adjusting to playing at this level.
Yeah, we were. I think we both were kind of quiet, and I think, you have your beginning of the year meeting where the team gets together. So that's usually in the locker room. But Rose, upstate guy. I was from the Midwest, so I had a little different turf, But that was the start of many good years together.
Was that an adjustment coming from Cincinnati to here? No chili.
Yeah, it was an adjustment. Yeah, it was an adjustment. Mainly the East Coast. I'm a Midwest guy, and my pace was a little slower. But this is a good place to be because I met a lot of guys from New York City and different places, but it felt more like home. And the weather was somewhat of an adjustment.
Rosie, what about you at that time? The coming here from the Rochester area was not new. At the time, the program was a regional program, and you guys helped lift it to this. I mean, it is now a nationally prominent program. What were those first sort of formative years like?
Well, the thing that I remember was when I came here, I was they went to the Final Four, I think the year before, and I saw them on television, and I was like, man, that'd be a nice place to go. And I'd been coming down here to camp, but I'd never. I'd come down to the camp, and Coach Boeheim was the assistant coach. But I was kind of questioning if I wanted to come down here because the other coach, I was a slow country boy. I liked Coach Boeheim. I'd come here, and I'll never forget, I used to come to the camp. He'd have on his sneakers, but you could tell that he didn't have his feet in them. They were like walking on the back of them. So you could tell he just came back from golfing or something. And he'd say like 2 or 3 words, and he was really calm. And then I talked to the other coach, and he was, and I was like, and he had a cigarette here, and he was talking fast, and his hair is all slicked back, and there's nothing wrong with him. He's I saw him a couple of years ago, and he's a great guy. It's just that in my life, they say you should try to pick your coach that has a similar characteristics to your father. My father's kind of soft-spoken, says he's a man of a few words, but when he spoke, you listened. And if you have that similarity between the two, you'll never have a tendency to be rebellious against one or the other.
That worked out, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it did.
Did you have an idea at the time that Jim Boeheim in the late 1970s was going to be what Jim Boeheim is now in 2006?
Well, we kind of knew that when he'd start explaining stuff like about basketball, like my knowledge of basketball was, when I used to sit down there, my knowledge of basketball was, I'm going to run the other guy until he drops dead. I mean, because I knew I could run because I played against guys 6'2". I played against 6'2", 6'3" centers. So when I saw a 7-foot center, I would start thinking, oh, he's got to be slow, so I'm going to just run like a madman. And then, being around Lewis and Ed and talking to Coach, and when I talked to Lewis, I was like, holy smokes, this kid knows basketball. And so it took a very short time. I found people that knew basketball, and I watched everybody. And there's a saying that you can become a very good player learning from your own mistakes, but you can become a great player learning from everybody else's mistakes. So you couldn't get me to say 3 words because I was always listening for years.
Lewis, the record when you guys were here is 3 years combined as starters, 74 and 14 in those 3 years. That's an average year of 25 and 5, basically.
Yeah, we got off to a pretty good start, and it was always about team with us, and back then, nobody averaged 20 points. We had great depth, and we just were a very good team. We played together, and that's one thing with Coach. He got everybody involved, but it all anchored around Roosevelt because he was the biggest concern. He was the guy. He's a 7-footer that could play both ends of the court and was going to shut it down on D, and was going to outrun, and give you a low post presence, and was going to do the little things even if he didn't get the ball. So he made my job a lot easier. And then you had guards like Eddie Moss and Hal Corn and Marty Head, guys that, blended in and knew their jobs. So I think we exemplified team.
Both of you guys have spent your post-college lives in basketball. And other things. But what has the game given you? What has it meant to you? And what have you given back?
Well, for me, I think God gives you gifts and talents to not just bless you, but to bless other people. And basketball is, it's been such a part of my life. It's hard to think of it not being in my life, from getting me a free education here at Syracuse, to having lifelong friends like Roosevelt and Eddie Moss and Marty Head, to being able to pay my rent and feed my family. So it's just been a great instrument in my life, and really it kind of came together. It really started to develop and grow when I got to Syracuse.
Rosie, for you, it's allowed you to see the world.
Yes, it's pretty interesting, because some of the things that we're learning here at Syracuse, about playing and about teamwork, and I knew that I used to tell myself, pay attention to everything that's going on around you, because you're a part of something special. Because when I started playing for other teams, I realized it, and it's like Lewis said, we didn't care who did anything, just as long as we won. We'd look out there and we'd say, okay, what do we have to do? Coach would set us up, to what we needed to learn to win, and then we'd talk amongst ourselves, like, what do we have to do to win? And I didn't care if it was blocking shots or if it was playing, on offense or drawing attention. And one of the things that I learned a lot from Lewis was that I noticed that I used to draw a lot of attention, and I would watch what he would do. I could see what he would do when I would draw a lot of attention. He went to the offensive rebound. So at any given time, when I played with Marty Burns, if somebody did that, like he was the big scorer, and he'd draw a lot of attention, then I would try to, instead of standing and watching, I would try to be active. And Lewis was one of the best at being active, going to the basket. And I always said, if I can stay close and being that active, it'll make it really difficult for anybody to key on either one of us.
And you guys have all talked about the team, but at the same time, it always came back to the Louie and Bouie show, right? How did that get started? Who came up with it? Was it uncomfortable for you?
Nah. You know what? We stepped into a good team. Our freshman year, to me, Jimmy Williams and Marty Burns and Dale Shackelford and Larry Kelly, we went 26-4. We beat Tennessee with Bernard King and Ernie Grunfeld. Roosevelt came in and, really solidified the team. My job was easy. Nobody knew about me. But over the years, it was always your time, and by the time we became sophomores, our role got bigger, and juniors and seniors, basically that was our time to shine. So it's funny how things develop, and it was great to have Roosevelt because, really he was the center of attention. So it made my job a lot easier, and, he was such an unselfish player, a team guy. So really, ever since then, really finding that kind of environment to play in, it was awfully hard to duplicate. But here at Syracuse, it was really the best teams that I've ever played for.